Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tower of Babel podcast. As always, I am Julian Meush. I am joined by nobody this week. It's just me again. We're going to be doing something a little bit different this time. We're going to be doing I'm doing a live session right now. We're live on Twitch and we're live on YouTube. And, it's been a week since The Flash premiered, and this is something that we've been talking about a lot on the show, obviously. And there's a lot to unpack in terms of the mess that it's left behind in its wake. And I think we're a week out from its release. There's lots of people have had a chance to see it, although it seems like most people have chosen not to. So we can talk about that as well. And I've prepared just a brief list of things that I'm gonna try to cover about the movie, around the movie, some just general thoughts and comments, but. Again, this is a live session, so I want people to join. There is a chat that I can jump to at any time here. We'll jump over there now. I think this one. And you can parse this. If you are a supporter of ours on Patreon, you can head over to the recording studio channel in Discord, and I can bring you up and we can chat live there as well. So lots of different avenues to get in on this. I want to know what people think about this movie. I think it's very divisive, it seems like, especially if you're on Twitter, which I am maybe too much. I've talked about that before. But I'm looking forward to kind of unpacking, again, this kind of seemingly avoidable mess that we're in, or constantly in, when we're talking about Warner Brothers and the state of the DC universe, especially on film. So let's get into it. Here's the other thing I guess I should mention for those who are maybe listening after the fact, because this is obviously going to be recorded, is you can probably not see, but I'm about to start playing. I'm going to play the DC animated Flashpoint movie, which is called, what was it called? Justice League, The Flashpoint Paradox, which was a twist on the comic book name that came out a few years before that. And obviously, the thing about this is that the Flash that we see now also uses that a little bit of it as its baseline. I think not to as good of a level, but we'll talk a little bit about this as we go. So I'll do a little bit of live commentary on the movie. We'll talk about the reason this modern live action Flash didn't work, or it did, and maybe some parts. And then we'll kind of get into the weeds a bit. And again, looking to keep this as kind of conversational as we can. And Jeremy may be able to join us partway through. We'll see. We'll keep our fingers crossed for that one. All right, so let's start. Let's start by playing the movie. So I will go to this one. Excellent. And we will start this shindig off. Make sure the sound is off. Excellent. So, okay. So for those who, let's just start with the fact that we're using this TV, this straight to television, straight to DVD, animated film as our kind of starting place here, is because it's really the first adaptation of this story. And I guess we'll even start a little bit further, which is to say, my history with the character, which is I've always liked the Flash, but I think the thing that, and this is common for most people, I think, who watched the animated series, the Justice League animated series and Justice League Unlimited, is that Wally West was that version of Flash, and it wasn't Barry Allen. Now, obviously, if you've been watching the last 10 years of the CW, then you know that Barry has been the center of the Flash universe for a very long time, and basically has replaced Wally. Has just fallen to the wayside, in my opinion. Has never really gotten a fair shake, especially because I think the version of the Flash that I'm familiar with, the jokester, kind of less serious version, which is the Wally West version that I know from Justice League, is that personality has been kind of grafted on to Barry Allen, who I've always thought was much more interesting as someone much more akin, not necessarily to Batman in personality, but in his level of seriousness. And that's obviously a bit much too, because Batman's overly serious. But the fact that, Barry works for a crime lab, that's serious business, is a detective in his own right, all these things. And there's comic book issues where Batman and Barry kind of connect on that level. And I think that's really interesting. We never really get any of that here. And I'll get into why, that might be vis-a-vis maybe the lead actor in this version of the Flash. So, but suffice to say, I just feel like Wally has been missing from the screen for too long. So I'm ready. I'm ready for a Ginger Flash to be returned to my life. Really, any time now. So again, my history with the character is generally mixed. I've liked the character on the page. Really liked the character. And forgive me because I don't remember the name of the voice actor from Justice League Unlimited, but that's really where I connected with the character for the first time in a deeper way. And then I actually did watch, I started with Arrow and the Arrowverse on CW, and I watched the first few seasons of The Flash. I thought, it was a little campy, more than a little campy, and the ability to do the crossovers using Flash's Speed Force's abilities, I think, certainly kept me interested longer than I might have normally otherwise been. But I genuinely enjoyed that show for many years. Jeremy and I used to joke that it was kind of the weekly comic book that, we weren't really reading weeklies at the time, right? Or even monthlies. So, we basically just enjoyed comic books on the screen, and it was, a weekly 45 minute, 42 minutes, I guess, if you don't include commercials, episode of The Flash, some adventure. You might even be dealing with Gorilla Grodd or some other Flash villain that we're familiar with. And there was a lot of teen drama, et cetera, et cetera. But I did connect with that version of Barry. And by the way, we'll talk about this later, but, this whole Grant Gustin erasure is I think, pretty unforgivable, in my opinion. The fact that they would go out of their way to do a multiverse movie using the Flash as the crux and not even acknowledge or talk about the CW show at all, I think is somewhat insulting, at least for me. And we can get into that in more detail later. But that's my background with the Flash. I think I heard someone talking about this recently, and it was this idea that once the Flash could travel through time and in between dimensions, or when that became popular, it basically became the only thing that the Flash was given to do, right? Okay, go do something timey-wimey. And I think that's unfortunate because the character is way more interesting when that's not the only ability. I mean, we saw another slow-mo version of this with the baby scene in the version of the Flash. And by the way, we will do spoilers for the Flashes as they come. But I genuinely think, and I even saw someone tweet this the other day, which was like from The Incredibles and the speedster in that movie, it being more interesting when they're about the same speed as like a race car rather than like the speed of light, which obviously at that point everything just slows to a complete halt, and we see kind of what that means in that baby scene here. But again, it's all comes back to obviously the original version of that ultra slow-mo from X-Men Days of Future Past. And great movie, Days of Future Past. Love that movie. Great film. But ever since then, that's what speedsters have been on film. And I'm not necessarily even mad about that either, because it is pretty cool to watch. But at this point, it feels a little rote. We would like something a little bit different. And again, this movie is about the Flash, so we should be experiencing all sorts of different ways you can go fast. And I just feel like that was wasted a lot in this movie. We get his run from Central City to Gotham at the beginning, very familiar visuals from the TV show, actually, very similar in the way that they executed that. And then we get that baby scene, and we get a few other kind of moments where we get to see him acting very fast, or using some of his abilities, especially not in a superhero fighting way, which can be fun, but again, not enough, in my opinion, right? So I guess the real question is, and we'll back up a little bit here, is was the movie any good? Was The Flash 2023, not this one that we're watching here, Flashpoint Paradox, any good? And the answer to that question is complicated, but I think it's mostly good, but when it's not good, it's like really bad. And I think that it'll probably age better over time. I honestly, it as kind of being more interesting later in life, but now in the midst of its kind of chaotic world that Warner Brothers has created for itself, there's just too much baggage for this to really work, in my opinion. It's so distracted by other things that, you know, individual moments taken on their own, which we always see on Twitter later in a movie's life cycle, are then able to be celebrated. There's even moments from the Green Lantern movie that we look at and be like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like moments on Oa and stuff. But, you know, I think as a whole, it's just too shaggy. It has a poor sense of pacing. Its stakes are not well defined, and then because of the nature of the Flash's abilities, and they try to address this, it's like, oh, what can you really do about it? Because it's just, he can go back in time and change anything, and they try to address that, but I think that's done clunkily as well. So, short answer is, I think it was pretty entertaining. It's genuinely funny at times. I especially think of the moment where he struggles to come up with a name for his alternate version for himself and just calls him Barry. So his cousin Barry and Barry, which is good. When he pretends to do his, like, the way that the Flash runs, but in the regular motion, that's also genuinely hilarious. But otherwise, I just don't know if some of the things work. Like, for instance, the stakes in the halfway through the second and through the third act are really just borrowed from Man of Steel, and they're not really given anything additionally interesting to say about the nature of Barry's quote unquote tragedy about his mother being murdered, right? So because of that, that's all dealt with at the very end of the movie, and everything we're dealing with Supergirl and Keaton's Batman and the return of Zod and all this stuff feels so contemporary. What's the word I'm looking for here? It just feels so needless. It doesn't have any weight to it, and it ultimately just feels like you're just really just bathing in nostalgia at that point, which from a movie that's about 10 years old, so it doesn't really feel even that old enough to give it that much weight. So I think that's problematic. But again, I think there is moments that are genuinely funny. There are moments that are genuinely heartwarming. I think of the moments. I don't know who they cast. Let me see if I can find the cast here. But the Maribel Verdu, I think, is the actress's name. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Who plays Nora Allen, Barry's mom, and I think she captures the warmth of a loving mother really well in her portrayal there. And every time Barry is dealing with her directly, it feels genuinely painful, and you can understand why he would do the things he's doing in the sake of, you know, protecting or trying to rescue his mom, because she seems like a genuinely great influence in his life. I mean, even though we find out later that in the version where she lived, the version of Barry that is a little bit of a self-centered jerk. Overall, generally speaking, you can. I just think that those moments with his mom are just work really well, and so again, some good, some bad, but like when we get to the stuff that's bad, I think it really starts to fall over. So, all right, so that's was it good? Again, no clear answer there. If you put a gun to my head and said give it a score, I would probably give it like a 7, which is totally serviceable. There's a lot of Marvel movies that are 7s, you know, but again, this weight of baggage that it carries with it, its refusal to even acknowledge or address any of that, and instead just rely on kind of cheap nostalgia bait to kind of carry it through what is a ultimately fairly clunky execution of a comic book story that's genuinely interesting, which is what we're seeing on screen now, right? The refusal to acknowledge the murderer, who the actual murderer was of Barry's mom, which is the Reverse Flash, but we never addressed that in this movie, and it didn't seem interested in exploring that at all. Also, I think a missed opportunity. They recast the father. I thought that was fine. It was previously Dr. Manhattan, But in this version, it's Ron Livingston. I think he's fine. I think he's genuinely very serviceable in his role. Not a very big role, but does a good enough job kind of countering the Nora Allen stuff and giving us a reason for him to care about his modern life. But that is all to say that it's a mixed bag. I'll give it a 7. It's really brought down by some of its indulgent moments. Okay, so let's talk about the I guess the elephant in the room, which is the box office, or in this case, I think lack thereof box office for The Flash. So we're going to look at Box Office Mojo here, and we're going to take a peek ski at the tragedy that is its current situation vis-a-vis the box office. So right now it's grossed 87 million domestically, 123 million internationally. Not too bad to shake a stake at. That puts it a worldwide gross after 2 weeks at 210, just about $211 million. But it's opening at 55 million is I think puts it up there with one of the worst openings in DC movie history. I'm just trying to pull up. There was a couple anecdotes that I wanted to pull up here while I'm thinking about this, but I just find it, I don't know if that's deserved necessarily. There's other factors we can talk about, and I want to get into that, but I'm just want to see if I can pull up some of this. Okay, so domestic box office openings for all the DCEU films. At the top is Batman v Superman, 166 million. Which even that, if you think about it, for Batman v Superman, probably a low ball. Like it probably deserved to make more money than that. And I don't know what that says about the nature of the DCU EU at the time, but that movie, Batman v Superman, which obviously we all agree that its theatrical version is not its best version. It's director's cut, always with Snyder's movies. But it still tops the list at 166 million, which is, compared to some of the biggest superhero movies of all time, not that impressive, unfortunately. And you start getting to Suicide Squad, 133 million. That movie sucks, unfortunately. Man of Steel, 116 million. Wonder Woman, 103 million. Both great movies. Justice League, 93 million. We don't need to retread that whole mess at this point. Aquaman at 67 million. We start getting into, which is, I think, also a pretty fun movie. Then you get Black Adam at 67 million, which all of a sudden doesn't look so bad, to be honest, right? We talk, oh, well, that'll do it for, and The Rock has been trying to basically smoke screen this thing the whole time, ever since this movie premiered. He doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to acknowledge its the reality of its box office performance, etc. So still decent comparatively at this point, where you're talking about a movie that made 55 million, which is right below the Black Adam, but slightly above Shazam. 30, and then you drop down to 33 million for Birds of Prey, the fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, which that was a pandemic movie. I think it was actually pretty fun. It's a pretty niche film, so it probably fits there fine, but it probably deserved something closer to what The Flash premiered at. And if we're being fair to The Flash in terms of its, a movie of its type, big multiversal movie, et cetera, it probably should have been making closer to 100 million opening weekend. And even that would have been considered a failure, I think, considering how much it costs, which we're I think feeling is closer to 300 million, including maybe not even including marketing. So yeah, they're right now, I think they're taking a loss on this movie currently. We'll see. Although, we'll go into week 3 after this movie's release, and it probably won't crack the top 3 again in terms of those weekend box office. So anyway, the bottoming out the list, you have Shazam at Fury of the Gods at 30 million, The Suicide Squad at 26 million, which I not really fair. Some of these movies also, by the way, premiere day and date on HBO Max, which certainly hurts their ability to earn, obviously. So I think that's another one of them. Wonder Woman on 1984 at 16 million. We know that's the case. for that movie. And that movie sucks also, although it also has its virtues, and that's fine. So the question here is, why? Why did it suck? What was it about The Flash that prevented it from making a splash from a box office perspective? And I don't think there's one simple answer to that question. I think it's multifaceted. I think it's probably its biggest problem is that, and it's hard to say what's its biggest problem. Its biggest problem probably is that people did not, the Flash, Ezra Miller's Flash did not ingratiate audiences in a way that people were like, I want to see this person. I want to see this character's own movie, right? I think they really bet on the IP of the Flash, which is, if we're being fair to a comic book IP and we're looking at it objectively in reality, they're not Wonder Woman, they're not Batman, they're not Superman, right? So where does that drops Flash down to, a 5 or a 6, I would think, in the tier list in terms of characters that people, love from the comics and want to see more of. So it's already upwards battle. Plus, someone brought this up the other day, that if you wanted to see Flash stories, you could have seen them for 10 years basically on television every single day. And that show just got canceled kind of unceremoniously, unfairly, some might say. So there might be some bitterness there. Ultimately, this has been my stance for a while, which is that Ezra Miller, and we'll get into the off-screen stuff later, but Ezra Miller's portrayal of the Flash and Barry Allen, I think, is difficult. I haven't liked it. I've never really liked it, not since they appeared in Justice League. And I just think, and I guess the very first version we saw in BVS in that nightmare sequence, or however it works, but that's not really a full performance. I guess what I'm saying is it's so unserious of a performance. And I feel that way, by the way, for this movie as well, for the Flash. It's just, takes things so unseriously that it's hard for me to care about what's going on if the character doesn't care, right? They do the thing that I think really only very adept filmmakers and writers can pull off, which is address the elephant in the room to say, in talking to their multiversal self, saying, wow, I am annoying. Right? Wow, that is really annoying. I can understand why people might feel annoyed by me, right? And I don't think that buys them anything here. The fact is, their version of Barry Allen is annoying. Doesn't feel very relatable. There's all these things that happen that we know about the Flash that the fastest man alive that's always late, right? Even that is like, there's his work colleagues are so cruel in this movie that I don't even think that even works here. The sense of his city, right? The Flash's city, Central City, and kind of the personality that comes with that, and the Rogues Gallery, because I think where does the Flash really, reach another level is the Rogues Gallery. And, talking about Captain Boomerang and Mirror Master and Iceman and all these other, so many great, genuinely great villains. And the show did a great job of portraying that. One of the great villains, by the way, Reverse Flash, who should have probably made an appearance here, does not. And because of that, confuses the matters. We talked about this earlier. Why would that be? I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted because this is the moment of the movie where Barry enters the Batman's Batcave and is confronted by a version of Batman that is different from what we get in the movie. In the movie, it's another version of Bruce Wayne. This time played by the 1989 quote unquote. But it's also unclear, if Keaton's Batman, Michael Keaton, obviously playing Batman here, is the same Batman from that 1989 film. It seems like it's probably not. It's just another version of that version of Batman. But genuinely speaking, the version in the comic and in the animated film is not Bruce Wayne, but his father, Thomas Wayne. So in this version of reality, Thomas is killed, or sorry, Bruce is killed in the alleyway, and then Thomas dedicates his life to the mission, as it were. Right. So I think that's a fascinating twist, and because of that twist, that change that's different from what we get in the movie. By the way, you also have a Atlantean and Amazonian war going on, which makes Princess Diana or Wonder Woman into kind of like this military general type character that we're seeing on screen now. Aquaman's much darker. There's a lot more drama in that way, and there's for many reasons that wouldn't have worked for the movie, and I get that. But the twist with the change with the father, I think this would have been easy enough to do, is that it gives the Flash the ability to connect emotionally with Batman at the end of the movie. The version of Batman from his reality, whose parents were killed, he gets to take a letter home from his father, written to the version of his son that he never got to know, but the Flash told him about, and because of that, they got to connect, on a truly emotional level, on the between these characters that have so much in common, right? Yeah, again, Flash and the Batman, quite similar. You think about it, both, orphans to some degree, both work for, or fight crime in some form or fashion. In the case, Batman's a detective, an unofficial one, and then the Flash in this case is works in a crime lab. So they have a lot in common, and because he gets to emotionally connect with his father, who he never got to meet, obviously because he was dead in the reality he came from, and then the Flash gets to draw this interdimensional connection between Thomas and Bruce, and it's beautiful. It never happens in the movie because they choose to instead rely on the Keaton thing, which, by the way, there's a version of this where Keaton plays Thomas Wayne instead of Bruce, and I think that's a fascinating idea, right? In this version, this human being is not the son but the father. Who knows? It doesn't matter how multiversal stuff works. You could have made it work. It would have been interesting. It would have added layers of intrigue, I think, to this, instead of just, again, capitalizing or cashing in on the nostalgia bait, as it were, the member berries, as the kids call them. So that's all. That is all to say, coming back to, one of the reasons that I just don't think that this movie made a lot of money is because I don't think people connected with Ezra Miller's version of the Flash. Now, we can kind of expound on that a little bit. We can pull on that thread and say that there's a whole bunch of off-screen stuff, right? Ezra Miller couldn't promote this movie for obvious reasons, right? Which doesn't help. I don't know. I genuinely don't know how much doing the late night show rounds matters for an audience to turn out to a movie. I don't know if everyone's watching Jimmy Kimmel or The Late Show or whatever, and they're like, oh, well, because Ezra Miller came on, they're charming, I'll go see their movie. I'm sure there's a component of that that's important, and I'm sure there's other types of media and promotion that they can do. But again, because of Ezra Miller's choices off screen and alleged, I guess, crimes, but seems like a lot of them have witnesses and are backed up. So I'm kind of inclined to believe that they are responsible for some of these kind of really disgusting things and really crazy things that I would rather not talk about at all. But we have to, because I just don't think you could ignore the fact that this person was in the news regularly while this movie was in production, or actually the post-production, while they were doing their post-production stuff and doing promotion and pushing the release date out so that they could avoid COVID and all that kind of stuff. And meanwhile, you have the lead of this movie, who you need to kind of back up and say, oh no, we're not going to recast. We're not going to recast the Flash. No, it's a difficult situation, but the movie's already done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? It all just comes off as excuses, because what do we know already happened? We know that they canceled the Batgirl movie. They basically just put it on the back burner, right? And it's, well, not back burner, they completely shelved it. It'll never to be seen by mortal eyes, right? Also had Keaton's Batman, which I think probably would have been more interesting. Also, Academy Award winner Brendan Fraser was supposed to be in that movie as a villain. Who knows how that would have turned out? I don't know, but it might not have been good, but I at least wanted to see it, right? So we don't have to see that. Plus, there's a version of a Batgirl that we'll never get to see on film. So that's all those things. They decided, no, that movie, not good enough for the light of day. We're going to take the tax write-off, right? But The Flash, no, we believe in this movie, right? We believe in this, in the actor who has been doing all sorts of crazy shit, but we're not gonna pull this movie. No, sir. This is coming out, and there's no stopping that, right? So, I just think it sends a very confused message to audiences. Basically, people being like, "Well, I don't understand. You're gonna," and maybe people don't really care or think about the Batgirl of it all very often, but you can compound that, and I do think this has less of a to do with the performance. It's been played out a lot, saying this is the reason this is happening. It's because the DCU was announced, James Gunn's reboot was announced, and that just sucked all the air out of the room. I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, to some degree, I think that's certainly true. It's not an issue. It's not a factor. But I just think that people aren't plugged in enough. The regular people who make up most of the box office revenue aren't plugged in enough to that kind of stuff for them to even know about it. That being said, you needed your diehards to show up, and I don't think that they were able to not that they weren't able to. They didn't want to because they were already frustrated with the way that they handled things with Superman, right? With Henry Cavill. They didn't like how that was handled. They didn't like how James Gunn was comporting himself online. There's all sorts of, a list of grievances that people have been building up about, this new DCU wasn't given a chance to get off, is taking over from the Snyderverse, and people want to see the Snyderverse end and all that. There's all that baggage. I think that plays a factor, right? As this comes off from a tonal standpoint, not really in the same vein as Zack Snyder's Justice League or Zack Snyder's movies, but more in line with some of the things like Joss Whedon's Justice League and things that came after, or maybe even more closely Aquaman, right? Which had a very specific tone that I think felt much more in line with what we got for The Flash. So I think that doesn't help. There's a whole bunch of reasons, right? But I think the number one reason is, at least from my opinion, is that they build this as a Batman movie with Michael Keaton, hoping that would be enough to put people in seats, and by doing that, shortchanged their main character and created a movie that wasn't wholly the Flash's or wholly Batman's, and that wasn't enough, didn't have enough on its own, or from a word of mouth standpoint, couldn't generate enough buzz. Because, the other I forgot to mention this, which is that they did early screenings. I completely forgot about that. They did early screenings of this movie that were so juiced up, right? They were given so much juice because, we had Tom Cruise. I don't know if I love Tom Cruise as a performer. Questionable as a human for sure, no doubt. I don't disagree with that. But as a performer, and I'm very excited to see Dead Reckoning later this summer. It's been a crazy summer for movies. Been enjoying it quite a bit. But the fact that they had Andy Muschietti come out and say like, "Oh yeah, the Flash called me," Tom Cruise called me up and wanted to say that, hey, this is a movie. This is a great movie. It's a movie that people need right now. All this stuff. Bullshit, Tom Cruise. I've called bullshit. There's no way that you thought this is, and then you also had, I think, Stephen King, the author, coming in being like, "Oh yeah, this is a great movie, one of the best superhero movies I've seen, ever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera," all that stuff. Just giving it so much juice. People coming out of these early screenings saying, "Oh, it's good, it's really good actually, but don't worry, we're gonna fix some of this CG. It's not done yet," which also turned out to be a lie. And I can't really forget. I don't understand. How much did they have to pay Stephen King and Tom Cruise to do that? Now, they didn't appear in public. I mean, Tom Cruise didn't, make this statement public. This is kind of used by the studio as a method. But, the Stephen King thing, he tweeted that. So, like, again, I'm not claiming that they were paid, but I'm not certainly ready to assume that these opinions were genuine either. And because of that, I think there was a general sense amongst people, at least in the fandom, that something was off. Something smelt off about this because, interesting that they use Barack Obama as the president in this animated movie. It's an interesting choice. Boy, I miss those days. But I guess the point being is there was a sense of dishonesty about the marketing campaign because what we were hearing and what we were seeing from trailers and stuff didn't really add up, right? I get the other thing is, by the way, and we'll talk about the CG element, but I just think they completely misread. Let's start fresh on that. Let's talk about the CG. So the CG in this movie is bad, right? Some parts it's fine. I think it's serviceable in most of the time. But when you have this, what they call the Chrono Bowl, right, which is this kind of like gladiatorial stadium of memories. It's kind of hard to describe, right? Moments in Barry's life that he's cycling through and I think otherwise, Barry looks good in that and kind of running reverse backwards on a ball of sand, and I think that looks cool. But you have these memories you're cycling through, and you're seeing like Henry Cavill's Superman. You're seeing these other moments from his past, but they look very bad, like poor cutscenes from a video game, like with like real faces painted on. It's very awkward looking, and I normally I would be very forgiving of this. There's two things that I think really color my opinion on this. One being Andy Muschietti coming out, who's going to, by the way, doing the Batman Brave and the Bold movie. So I'm hoping that some of the bones of the stuff that works, especially the comedy, are able to be brought into that movie without some of the baggage of this other Flash stuff that's holding it back. But anyway, he comes out and says that it was all on purpose, that, oh, no, the look of the Chrono Bowl was intentional because we're seeing it from Barry's perspective, and he's in the Speed Force, and therefore it's not supposed to look good, right? And I just think that's a yeah. Wonder Woman cuts off Mira's head in this movie. That's another thing that happens in this animated film. Which, by the way, I don't think animated film is perfect either. It's super disjointed and just like a bunch of moments strung together that are like crowd pleasing and fun. But anyway, back to what I was saying, which was that, what was I saying? Oh, about the Chrono Bowl and its visuals. That, I'm sorry, you just can't come out to an audience and tell them, oh, no, it's not you're watching it wrong, basically. And telling us that we don't understand it's supposed to look like that. Bullshit. We know what our eyes are seeing, and we know it doesn't look good. So, and this is coming, by the way, a week after Transformers Rise of the Beast premiered, which, say what you will about those movies, right? But at least the CG looks good. you know what I'm saying? So it's tricky. I understand where they're coming from. I think that some people have kind of given him a little bit of passing that Andy Muschietti is basically playing a good soldier. He still needs to do work as the director of Brave and the Bold, as we talked about. So he needs to stay in line with that and can't kind of be fighting the studio. So fair enough, I guess. But I just think that it's bullshit. You can't do that. And that, I'm sure that didn't help the box office either. And then they also told people that they were going to improve the CG, and they didn't. And I think that's also kind of unforgivable. And then the fact that they delayed this movie so many times. It's been in development for so long, this movie, and it's been filmed for a long time too. And that they had all that time and they chose not to use it. They did not want to spend the money to improve the look of the CG in those scenes, and it shows. And you get the impression that they intentionally cheaped out, and I think that's bullshit too. So those are some serious knocks against the movie, in my opinion, and especially in the way it was handled. It's one thing to come out and have bad CG and be like, listen, we didn't have the budget, or we didn't have the time or whatever. But to say that it's our fault basically, I think that's garbage. So that's another whole piece of the pie. Okay, let's take a breather there. I got a little worked up. Let's see. What else do I have on my list of things I wanted to talk about? So, and we're still talking about the box office performance, why it may or may not have succeeded. So we talked about its marketing or lack thereof, early screenings that I think were probably too wide, right? Too many people saw them early on and were able to reveal some of the surprises that I think otherwise would have convinced people to go see it. Oh, X cameo was revealed on. I was spoiled on several of the super, especially the Superman cameos, but almost all of the twists and surprises except for the post credit scene, which I thought was fun but also confusing. So we'll get to that, but that didn't help. And we talked about how Ezra wasn't able to market, but we haven't really talked about how the DC relaunch kind of plays into all this. So between when this movie was announced and its release date set, and when it actually released, the whole thing with HBO Max, Warner Brothers Discovery happened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what we got was a relaunch of the whole brand, right? And James Gunn is confirming some of these details, basically saying, "Hey, we are we're not going to recast we're not going to bring Henry Cavill back. Ben Affleck's not coming back. We're gonna do a whole new thing, right?" And I can respect that. I think we talked about this on the show. I think it is the right call. It's the right decision to make. But it does sap this movie a little bit of what it could have been, right? And so we talked about this for a while, and this is my theory for a long time, was the reason that they weren't scrapping the Flash at one point, which was called Flashpoint, right? But they decided to go with a simpler title for it. The reason that they didn't do that was because they were going to use it as a launching pad to kick off the new, just like how Flashpoint in the comics kicked off the New 52, right? A whole new reset of the comic book universe, a new entry point, right? Which worked on Jeremy and I because we were there day one, right? But they didn't do that. they completely the right hand turn was to go lean into the change and use this as a methodology, because the abilities of the Flash allows you to do this, and would have even let you keep Ezra Miller. But instead they took a left hand turn, which in that direction basically had no acknowledgement of the past or future. Really, there's barely any, so we have Ben Affleck's Batman in a pretty cool scene at the beginning. I genuinely thought that was a really good Batman chase sequence. We got, Alfred back, and even Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman comes back. And then, a lot of people don't like the joke with the lasso of truth, but those jokes have been made with Batman's expense, with that exact tool, with the lasso of truth as the catalyst so many times. So it's like, guys, relax, right? This isn't a slight against anything. It's just, that is just always, they've done this for a long time in comics and the animated stuff forever, right? So, let's take a breath there, I think. But you get those acknowledgments of the past, right? Oh, okay, so this is the Justice League, but is it the Justice League from Joss Whedon's Justice League, or is it Justice League from Zack Snyder's Justice League? And it seems to be an amalgamation of both, which is also confusing. And then at the end, you did the thing, you broke time, and then you put it back together, and you come back, and now things are reset. That's genuinely how things, at least that's how it was done in this animated movie we're watching. And it was also how it was done in the comics and slightly in the show. By the way, this is also touched on in the Flash show. Kevin Smith does the episode. It's genuinely touching. It's one of the best episodes of that show. But But the idea is you return and things are different. And so two things are different, right? His dad's not in jail. They acquit him because of one small change he makes. And because he makes that small change, I guess, in this version of the new version of the future is George Clooney's Batman. So I thought that was, cross my heart, hope to die. I thought that was a fun twist. I did not see that coming. I did not know about that one. And I thought, oh, what a fun, of all the Batman to pick, the George Clooney one is kind of out of left field, especially because he said he was really never interested in playing the character again. And it's not really, he's just kind of playing Bruce. He's not really playing Batman. But it just confuses things further, right? What does this mean? Does that mean that we're going to get another version of Batman with Clooney? I don't think so, right? I think it's purely there as a kind of like a gag, basically. A fun gag, but a gag nonetheless. And ultimately, and then the post-credits sequence, which generally sets up a future installment in the universe that we've been watching, is just a scene with Barry helping Aquaman. By the way, of course, we're talking about Jason Momoa's Aquaman. Drunk out of a bar, who then falls asleep in a puddle. Also funny. I thought that was like a well executed gag also. But what does that have to do with anything? It doesn't clarify if this version of the Flash is going to continue into the Blue Beetle movie, which they still have coming, right? So here's what they still have, quote unquote, Aquaman, pre Guns Superman. So that's set for, I think, 2 years from now. And we've got two movies still. We got Aquaman 2. So I guess maybe it's supposed to set up Aquaman 2, but it doesn't really do that because the character of Aquaman in this is so drunk. And Momoa does a good job playing drunk. He's done it quite a few times, but he's basically been in. It just so again, it's confusing, right? Well, why does this scene does it have anything to do with Aquaman 2? Probably not. We've heard very mixed things about that movie, right? It was also been delayed. We should probably have seen it already. I'm hearing mixed things about Blue Beetle in the sense that we don't even know if it's in the universe, right? Which I think is also confusing. So there's a whole question there. And then I also heard that Blue Beetle is the first movie in the DCU, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the first movie in James Gunn's universe. But that might mean it's the first movie produced by DC Studios, which of course is new. Didn't make these last movies, didn't make The Flash, right? That was just under the Warner Brothers umbrella. So it's just all very confusing. And I think all these factors really weigh heavily against this movie's ability to succeed at the box office. So anyway, that's part of the story. I think ultimately is they just need to get through these next few movies. They gotta get through Aquaman 2. Blue Beetle might be an opportunity to reset things. It actually looks fun. I'm a big fan of the character from Young Justice. We got to see much more of that character fleshed out more than I've ever had before. The actor from the Kung Fu, the karate movie, karate show on Netflix, Cobra Kai. He's genuinely great, good actor. Looking forward to his performance here. I think it should be interesting, at least to say the least. But you got to get through Aquaman 2, which people are saying is a turd. But for all we know, because of what we heard from The Flash, it's probably good. So we're gonna get that, and then we get to reset, and I think that reset is needed. I hope they recast The Flash. At this point, it looks like Gal Gadot is the only one who's like really campaigning to stay on board. And I would be interested to see if that happens. But I have yet to we've yet to get clarity on that. I would be okay with that because I think she is actually quite good. She only got the one good movie, but her appearance here is fun. She makes a brief appearance here. Could she come back? Sure. I ultimately recast them all, is my opinion. Don't just cut it away. what's the line from Kylo Ren? Uh, leave the past behind, kill it if you have to, something like that. Because at this point, there's just too much baggage, and we saw how that plays out in this movie here. It's just too much for a weight for this movie to bear. I would, on one other hand, really like to at least get a little bit of a tease of what we're getting to. I just feels like a missed opportunity for the Flash to be this kind of like swan song on the DC EU as we knew it, the Snyderverse, right? But instead, it's not even that. It's this kind of zombie walking in the flesh of the past moments of that universe. Again, the using Man of Steel again, not effectively in my opinion. Using, I think it would have been even more interesting if. Looks like Jeremy's trying to join. So let's see if we can get him in here. Hold on, Justin. You were in the green room, it says. I'll reload the page here. See what happens. Anyway, we'll get Jeremy in here in a second, but I just think that again, I think it's carrying too much weight and too much baggage. Jeremy, can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. I say we, but I was just talking about why I thought the baggage of the previous DC stuff has basically kneecapped the Flash's ability to succeed.
So you're blaming Zack Snyder?
No, I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, not at all. I'm just saying that it's confusing and it doesn't help. But
Well, what do you mean? Why wouldn't people show up? It's called The Flash, right? Superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here?
Well, I outlined.
Got Michael Keaton. That should have done over $1 billion.
I outlined. I outlined a few reasons.
It's got 2 Batman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tons of cameos. No reason it shouldn't have hit $1 billion.
Well,
Right?
I said my number one reason I thought for why this movie didn't succeed was that the character of the Flash played by Ezra Miller did not ingratiate itself with audiences. It was hard to connect with that character, I think, from their 2 previous appearances, enough to kind of generate a lot of buzz coming into a movie like The Flash, where they have to hold it. But then, of course, they even couched that, right? They did like, well, maybe the Flash can't carry his own movie entirely, so we'll throw in a Keaton Batman and a Supergirl and some of these other things. But I don't think it was enough to carry it. But I don't know, Jim. Have you seen it? I don't think you've even seen it yet, right?
No, I've not.
So you're one of the reasons why it hasn't made any money. Why haven't you?
I voted with my wallet.
Yeah. Okay. Why? Why? What was it?
No, I don't know. It's just bananas how this company is just like whoever makes the final decisions.
Mm-hmm.
On what their play is, and I guess
no one's sitting on the throne, Jeremy. It's just a free.
No one's mining the mint as as right. Our boy James Gunn.
Yeah, it's a free for all. It's a free for all. Yeah. Is James Gunn our boy? Because I know there's a lot of backlash against James Gunn online. I feel like it's mostly unjustified. We talked about this a little bit. He seems to get a lot of people want him fired. He hasn't even done anything yet. I don't know, for what, I guess is the question.
Well, we do know is that, because he's obviously pretty vocal on Twitter,
right.
But months into it, he said he was going to back off or something like that. But someone called him out or something for his level of connection to the recent DC releases,
sure.
which they were saying that he wasn't a part of or something, or. But he said, "Oh, really?" Then he said something like, "Oh," to the effect of, "Oh, really? Then what are like? I gave 4 notes or
right
4 movies my notes, right? So whatever those notes mean, it's pretty clear that apparently the cameos were probably changed under his direction.
Do you think to avoid confusion?
Yes, it's to set the reboot up. It's
really
it's
I was just
100%.
That's so weird
because the canceled cameos were of Henry Cavill in his Superman role with Gal Gadot.
Well, everyone else, that's so silly because everyone else is there. Gal Gadot's there. Fucking
and people want to say this is a
there.
love letter to the Snyderverse, which is just a complete joke. But if that's what they were trying to do, then those people would be there in a different.
That's what it should. I mean, that's what it should have been ultimately. Right? I was saying this before you came on.
I think Gunn and Safran were too worried that would kind of be the wink, wink.
Well, at least it would have made money.
Justice League 2 and 3. You know what I'm saying. And then you basically fired Henry Cavill. Previously, I guess that was last year, earlier this year. That was like a lifetime ago. That was along the slew of all those super long text picture that you tweet or Instagram because you got to say a bunch of
apology.
Stuff. Yeah, that was like Patty Jenkins had one. Mm-hmm. It was like 3 huge pictures long of like how she's not continuing or something.
Well, the modern version of Twitter, you would be able to write a novel now because there's no limits. But yeah.
So, but essentially, what I've come to learn is that what's it, DeLuca and Pam Abdi or something like that. They're the ones that are they made all those decisions prior to Gunn and Safran. So there's a little bit of a clash there in what like the plan moving forward was supposed to be. But I think Gunn and Safran just wanted to not confuse people on what to expect. So if you see like in-form Henry Cavill as Superman and like a scene with Ben Affleck's Batman or Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman,
right?
Like, that trinity that was birthed in BVS in 2016, right? We're 10 years anniversary.
I was just saying how that was it's the highest grossing opening weekend of the whole DCU, only 166 million, which even that, if you look at that compared to some of the biggest Marvel releases, it's like it's not great.
It's not the top, but it's the biggest DC. It's the biggest DC
one. Yeah,
biggest DC by far.
Yeah.
So the story behind that, which is kind of like how I've come to kind of or been so fascinated with this topic, is that the second week drop off to BVS was substantial,
right?
In terms of like records and whatnot. But then that's the argument right there, right?
It's like it wasn't succeeding. And that's when they started trying to make changes.
They got cold feet or whatever, but then it's like, well, why weren't you succeeding? And then it's who you blaming. And then we know that they mandated a certain time period, right? Or length of that movie, which they cut 35 minutes out of, which is in the Ultimate Edition, which is obviously vastly superior and kind of fills in some things.
Vastly superior. It's definitely superior. I'm not going to. It's still got lots of problems in my opinion.
Sure, you could have that opinion, but the thing is that second version, or that like the version, was not the first introduction to what you're trying to convey here. So it's not that one came out, then the other, then you can compare it. It's, well, what if that other one just came out?
Right.
You want to
do a Flashpoint scenario where instead of saving Barry's mom, we go back and we release the director's cut of BVS in theaters that first week, and then we come back to today and we're watching Justice League 2.
That's what the fan fight is, right? It's just.
But we can't go. But this movie is about how you can't go back in time and change. Well, in this case, you can.
Yeah, you can't mess with it, but then it does anyways.
It doesn't help, right? So. There is a lesson there about like, hey, you can't go back and change the past. You just have to go forward, right? Which is what the reboot's all about, right?
Yeah, but then let's have all these cameos and bring George Clooney back.
The George Clooney thing genuinely surprised me.
Unbelievable.
I think it's a funny twist.
It's all embarrassing though. The very last thing you see in this movie is Barry Allen's tooth fall out or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. The missed humor, like.
It's funny enough.
The problem is we're trying to extrapolate from the Snyderverse and what all that began, and just completely change the tone and just not take ourselves seriously.
Well, I think
in any
Ezra
regard,
Miller's version of the Flash has been pretty consistent, in my opinion, which is to say his take on the character. Their take on Flash is unserious by nature, and so the movie adopted that tone. And it doesn't work. Doesn't work. There's some very funny moments.
He was the levity,
but it's pretty funny.
He was the levity in the previous entries in the movie, right? Like
exactly.
So,
and I don't actually fault them. I think Flash can be funny. I just think that like we keep trying to use the Barry Allen version of Flash as like the funniest version, right? Like, oh, he can be funny, but Barry Allen isn't the funny one. Wally West is the funny one. and they get
according to the comics. Yeah.
Well, according to the comics and our, what we've seen in Justice League and Unlimited and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just previous entries, right?
Right.
That's always been the issue is what changes do you make, what swings do you take, and then comic purists or gatekeeping really.
I
should be this
suppose.
way. That is kind of your take, which it's fair. You grew up with the cartoon essentially.
Well, I don't think this even works. I just I find if okay, you're going to take the Wally West version, but the portrayal, the performance isn't strong enough to carry a whole movie, especially two of them. No offense, but there's two. They have to double the duty and they have to play off each other. And
right.
that
so when it's a stand-in who has to he gets paid obviously to do this huge, huge movie,
and then their faces replaced.
Yeah. I saw a clip of his last day shooting, and the emotion, the tears just flowing, it's a whole it's just a journey, right? That these filmmakers and all the crew and cast members, there's
a really funny bit in Barry season 1 where there's these up and coming actors are falling all over themselves because this one actor got a Hollywood part, and turns out it was the body double of the actor who played Pinocchio. So he's completely digitally removed from the movie, but they're but you were there on set, right? And that's basically kind of what the same situation is here. And it's so now you have two Ezra Millers playing off themselves, and it kind of falls flat. There's some really funny moments with the two of them.
I think he was funny in
piece.
He was funny in the other ones, well, especially Zedeshael. I thought I genuinely laughed at some of the things he was doing.
I know. I don't. The humor mostly works, I think, in the movie. It's the fact that they waste the emotional opportunities. Some of them work too. Also, there's some moments with the mom that are touching. Especially there's one scene in a grocery store that's really, really good. But they waste some other opportunities, like the fact that we basically get no exploration. This becomes a Batman movie halfway through, and then that version of Batman, it gets no time to express their inner self at all. We don't know if it's the same version from the 89 movie. It's implied that maybe it is, maybe it isn't, right? And which, by the way, this movie does constantly waffles on its commitment to, if it's a part of the current Justice, universe that we've seen before, or if it acknowledges, there's one scene that acknowledges a deleted scene from Justice League that was in Zack Snyder's Justice League when we see what's her name, his girlfriend, for the first time, and that's oh, that's interesting. So maybe that is, but then no, that there's other parts where they acknowledge the Joss Whedon's Justice League. So it's it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It borrows its stakes. I think this is its biggest problem. So the movie should be about Barry's struggle with coming to terms with the fact that he has to lose his mom, right? Which actually echoes a lot of some of the stuff from the Spider-Verse movie we just saw about these kind of canon events, these moments in a character's story that are, unchangeable, right? And it should be about that and grappling with what that means, right? With a villain that is unique to this character who has so many good villains, but instead we get Zod again, which is completely wasted, and it's borrowing the stakes from, because it's oh, why do we care about these characters in this alternate timeline that doesn't have Superman to protect them? We only care because we saw what happened last time in Man of Steel, and the actual emotional stakes of dealing with the past and coming to terms with that all comes to a head very quickly at the end. It's resolved. They kind of tease this idea that, who is this time traveling villain that pushes him out of the time, the chronosphere or the chrono bowl, right? But it turns out that it's just Barry from the past, or Barry from the future, or whatever you want to call it. And I thought that was a pretty obvious twist. I saw that coming, but the only other option was that it was Reverse Flash, and they, instead of acknowledging the fact that in the comics, Reverse Flash is the one that kills Barry's mom, they instead don't touch on it at all. No, they don't even acknowledge who killed Barry's mom. It doesn't matter. And then they have the opportunity to set up, either even at least kind of put a bow on things from a Snyderverse perspective, but they choose not to, and instead bring Clooney in, which is confusing. and then because it could, you know what, that scene would have worked just as well if Ben Affleck was still the one playing that character,
What
or
about
if it was
Christian Bale?
Keaton, or I don't know if it doesn't. I don't Christian Bale. That makes no sense. Yeah,
Apparently
they
that
wanted
was
him.
one of their choices. Yeah, Kevin Smith somehow has a scoop on that one.
Well, he always knows
and
something.
he's like, well, if Nolan's not directing, then no thanks.
Well, yeah, obvious. I mean, fair enough. That version of the character, I guess, fine. It would have elicited the same emotional response to me as Clooney's version, which is like, oh, I didn't see that coming, right? But as like the final, like moment that we're going to spend in it, I guess Aquaman 2 is still coming, so who knows how this is all going to pay off. But it just feels like this missed opportunity to either sunset the place you are now. Instead, it leads it in this confusing middle ground space, or introduce the new, who's the new Batman, or introduce like a new cat, a recasted version. Who's the new Superman, right, or whatever, right? And that's not done yet. So instead, it's just a gag, and I don't know. That's a bit of a piss off, and that's not without even mentioning some of the other Superman stuff, which feels completely like unnecessary. This is a Flash and Batman movie, but then there's these cameos of old Superman, right? And I genuinely don't understand the Christopher Reeve Superman here. I don't get the Nick Cage. I mean, it's cool that you see the Nick Cage stuff. I just don't understand why it's in this movie.
From what I've seen the some clips, but like it looks like very bad, like rendered CG. Is that the case? Does it look?
I thought the one with Nick Cage looked fine, but I think that's only because Nick Cage comes off as like, he just never looks like a human to me anyway. So it kind of like all works, and it's like a de-aged version, and he's wearing this like very like form fitted with like muscles added on top type of costume, so it kind of works. That one is fine, but it's also like, who's it for?
It's very like quick,
it's
and
very
like,
fast.
Just over.
But again, it's like, why we're getting these it's a cool moment where like these orbs that represent other universes,
the multiverse, we've seen imagery
coming, they're coming together and colliding or whatever, and that's cool. That concept is cool, but then what is in these other universes? Just other Superman people, and not other versions of the Flash. Grant Gustin doesn't even get a cameo in this movie.
Brutal.
I feel like that's to me
the best
is
piece
crazy.
of the DC multiverse is literally, the scene that Ezra showed up.
Yeah,
in
that's where he gets his name.
Yeah,
he decides on calling himself the Flash. Because
I just see those two suits together and then feeling their suits and talking about the difference in what they're made up of is so funny.
Well, yeah, and by the way, he gets this like very form-fitting suit in this movie that I think actually looks pretty cool, in my opinion. Like in motion, it actually looks good. Right. But I just think what is it, Brian Wilkinson, the costume designer, who's been kind of just legendary. He came up with everything Snyder related and into the introductions of these characters, and the whole notion, I think specifically with Flash and Aquaman, was for when they got their solo movies for the director to kind of evolve the suit based like on like the narrative like journey of where they're at. So I always thought that was a cool thing, and I just loved the Brian Wilkinson's work. I think he did Andor. Or some sort of Star Wars series for their costumes. Brian Wilkinson, Star Wars. I can't. I'm sure I spelled that wrong. There's no way to know. But anyway, yeah. I mean, okay. So, any other theories as to why this movie didn't succeed or why it didn't make any money? Like, it's a flop of kind of pretty big proportions.
Epic proportions.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's everything. Everyone's listing, I guess. It's amalgamation of everything, probably. But there's just really no way to know what the general audience is thinking, but they didn't show up.
Can you believe they threw away Batgirl for this movie? That's the thing that's so crazy.
It's another like, it just, you have to laugh, like, because like Brendan Fraser was supposed to be Firefly, and he just goes
Academy
on to be
Award winner.
not Academy Award winning
Yeah.
redemption. Years in the making.
Brendan Fraser songs is we're in the middle of it right now.
Just unbelievable. And then his connection to all these other actors and
the fact that he was doing what's it called? He was already doing a DC work, so he was kind of like staying loyal to the company,
right?
And because he was on what the heck is that show? I can't remember what it was called.
Doom Patrol. Yeah, DC's X-Men.
Exactly, and it was like
pretty funny show. Jeff Johns produced, obviously.
For something good that he's done on TV. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like it's so wild to me. It's like, okay, well, we're not even gonna
blunder after blunder after blunder.
Well, yeah, and Zaslav's back in the news again, right?
Yeah, selling half the rights to
the music,
and whatever else that they don't really.
Whatever,
they don't care
whatever's not bolted down.
They think that isn't part of a successful IP. Let's just sell it, and maybe they can do something. They can do whatever they want with it, I guess. Now, layer it over top of whatever something else, like
the music from Casablanca. Great.
But there was even some DC stuff too. It's like, whoa, what DC music are we talking about here?
It doesn't. It's like the move. This company is in so much debt, and they need to do whatever they got to do, I guess. But like at some point, it becomes embarrassing to watch this.
$48 billion in debt.
It's like it also doesn't make. How do you even get that far into debt?
And then the people running the show just still make like $300 million a year, or whatever it is, like whatever Zaslav takes the cut of.
Yeah.
It's bananas.
So he can watch this movie fail and then write it off.
And then, they recognize they have these huge brands in DC, and they've just basically given all control to Safran and James Gunn. But they've already talked about how Elseworlds would continue with movies like The Joker 2. Well, with it's supposed to be a musical, right? With Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. And then the Batman sequul,
not set for like another 5 years from now, but
2025, right? And then they're going to do their own, very own DCU starting with Superman Legacy.
Well,
but I'm pretty sure his whole thing was that the budget was supposed to be like under 70 million for these projects that are supposed to convince the audiences to show up.
So like the new Superman Rebirth, is that what it is? Legacy is. They're only giving him 70 million to make that movie?
I don't believe that's going to be the case, but he basically said that the Elseworlds tales need to have a bit like sharper quality.
Sure.
Not to say that the other ones part of the DCU won't have that. There's just a certain tone they're going to nail that there's a certain budget, I guess, that just goes along with whatever they're doing. But he's very adamant that story is king.
It is. He's right about that.
Which is interesting to for him to put all his chips in the Flash and say it's the greatest superhero movie ever. For every review outlet to say the hype is real. Doesn't Jeremy, make it seem like it's kind of contrived.
Gross. It feels gross.
You know what I mean? Like, are there paychecks? Like how? Like why?
That's what I'm saying. I said the same thing.
People have. How is no one leaking that there are paychecks though? Who's not coming? Like
I don't know, man. It's wild to me because
promise them future business. Probably not money up front.
Yeah. What does Stephen King get out of saying this movie is the best superhero movie ever? Like I don't get that. I don't understand.
The other director is supposed to do Ant-Man. Edgar Wright.
Right.
He had a huge tweet too.
It's
Tom Cruise. It all started with Tom Cruise.
I know. And then they doubled down on that.
The Muschietis said that Tom Cruise saw the movie and said, "This is the movie we need right now."
Yeah. I can tell you
that we were blown away by that. We're like, "Is this like what is this?" But that was the beginning.
What am I supposed to do? Not believe
this? No, but that was the beginning of this huge media spin on the hype is real. But it's clear that the movie does have some heartfelt moments and in its story with Barry Allen and his mom and Lost and all that. So that's obviously there, but everything around it is just not supporting it, which is crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't hold together, I think, and that's the problem. It had the opportunity to do some really interesting things. It chooses to play it safe. I also
there's people on the internet who are like that. They're saying Andy Muschietti has blood on his hands as soon as he dug up Christopher Reeve. but it's like, can't you, like I just find it like super funny.
Well, it's obviously
like you can definitely spin it that way. It's like you have this horrific CGI render of Christopher Reeves, and then you go on Twitter and you see these
dead eyes.
video quotes. The video quotes of like the real Christopher Reeves, like
Sure.
talking about I don't know if you've seen them, but like he's talking
haven't.
about like studios and sequelitis, and that's all they care about. And he's basically, he would be totally against the use of him in this manner. You know what I mean? It's so cheap. Like people want to make fun of the BVS tease of the security cam footage of some of the upcoming Justice League members.
Right.
This is completely on par with that, and it's over the top to where it's like, yeah, this is worth the price of admission alone.
It's not.
Nicolas Cage as Superman lasering a giant spider to death or whatever. Like,
yeah, that's who's that for?
Brutal.
Yeah, I just don't understand who it's for. It's not.
And Andy says that they got Nicolas Cage in studio to do it. It's like, man,
why
you
for
de-age
what?
the shit out of him? It, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
to look
so
like
weird.
him from the 90s.
It's what's wild. So there's I was listening to the Ringerverse guys, the Midnight Boys, and they brought up the fact that the craziest part about the whole thing is that there are there's actors alive today that play these characters that they could have used. I'm sure they would have taken the paycheck, right? To come, Brandon Routh is still alive.
Cavill at all. Just don't give a send off to him.
Right. Let's not.
Brandon Routh. Yeah,
Brandon Routh is around.
Who's supposed to be the continuation of the Christopher Reeve Superman?
Right.
So.
Also, the what's his name? Who's playing him on Lois and Clark or whatever? Superman and Lois.
Who people rave about.
Yeah,
online.
exactly. All these these people that could help your kind of. But that show's coming back. You could have helped that show, right? Would have been interesting. Yeah. We mentioned Grant Gustin already, who doesn't get a call out or even a reference.
I'm gonna send you a photo. Jay Garrick. Like there's this a millisecond.
Yes, it's
CG
wild,
bullshit looking.
It's crazy.
Jay Garrick, the Flash, the OG golden age Flash, and that's what you do. I'm gonna send you an image right now. I'm gonna text it to you.
I'm waiting. My phone is ready.
And it's a nice art piece of.
Oh yeah, see that's nice.
Like
all the flashes.
Imagine these characters, this look as a Flash movie in theaters today.
Well, yeah. Again, this isn't really a Flash movie. I just it's called The Flash, but it's not really about the Flash.
Which is not good.
No, I know. It shows no respect for the character. People want to see the Flash. That they like. People are there's fans of the Flash. I like the Flash as a character. He's not my favorite Justice Leaguer, but
it's a very cool character.
It's very cool, right?
Extremely cool.
But just a missed opportunity. I think, but again, I think this proves that they're going to recast Ezra Miller. The version of the Flash that we get for the new DCU is not going to be
very unfortunate.
Unclear about Gal Gadot. She really seems like she's campaigning to come back. She really wants the job.
A couple quotes where it's like she feels like she's set free and doesn't have to wait for an offer or something. So that was one of the first clear indications that she wasn't doing it anymore. But then
surprise, she appears here.
She's there, and then things are happening behind the scenes.
Well, doesn't she also appear? She also appears in Shazam! Fear the Gods too.
Yeah,
right. So
and just brutal appearances for just a one-note joke.
It's such a shame too, because her first movie is so good, right? And then 84 is so bad, and then we just get again another missed opportunity.
Like in the Shazam one, like Billy, like as older Billy's like trying to like hit on her and say that he's old enough now, and then in this one, it's like just like what is it like Batman's like blubbering.
Well, they have the lasso of truth, which I defend that because we've seen that joke done before.
How can you defend it?
Because it's not unprecedented to me that you could do a joke with Batman with the lasso of truth.
It's like come on, we've seen it, so we're not going to laugh right now.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you do it. I thought and
it's Wonder Woman, like just from the beginning, just so badass and warrior like, and then it's all just been thrown out the window for what they think people want to see and what they think is appealing.
Well, again at this point, this movie is just like a zombie of like all these, or Frankenstein's monster of all these components, right? It's like, oh, it's some of
like just the quality and purpose of the original DCEU from the get-go. The tone, it's like some people just weren't on board for it, but now it's like, man, just imagine if these were being released right now. Darkseid, who's gonna do that better? What do you want to see? Julian, what do you want to see in the DC universe? You want to just have a good time, have a Superman movie?
Well,
for sure.
it depends.
I definitely want to see that.
Yeah.
But like, what's the culmination? What's that end game Infinity War type thing? That
I guess Brainiac would be interesting, or
right.
I don't know. There's others,
man, Darkseid versus Justice League was already in motion over multiple movies. It's just what a missed opportunity, and you just see it. You see fans yearning for that, and they know of all the mistakes that people made in deciding how to move forward with the IP, and just blunder after blunder after blunder.
Right. And now it's paying.
And
now it's
we're not
but it's hitting them. It's hitting them in the wallet, right? I mean, does this not prove, to some degree, doesn't it prove James Gunn right? It's like, to some degree,
right? But what he said, story is king. He backed this movie, and no one is. The word of mouth is not good.
Yeah,
the word of mouth is not good, so the story isn't there. Then
I don't. Yeah, but I mean, this isn't his movie. I just don't think we can judge. I agree. There's a lot of juice in the air about this, but
we can only judge his from the inception, and we know he's capable in terms of the Guardians franchise. But at DC, it's a whole different story. Obviously, COVID greatly impacted the Suicide Squad, which apparently didn't make any money during that.
Oh well, it's because they released a day and date with.
Yeah, no, I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt of the world situation at the time, for sure. But it's also a movie I don't really care to see again, personally.
Sure.
And then you want reboot, then again, it goes to the conversation of John Cena and Peacemaker, which we know he's bringing them back. It's a guarantee if he is at the helm. So if things change, if anything is going to change, then it's going to change at some point, sooner rather than later. If they're gonna back this 2025 Superman Legacy project, which he's bringing his own aesthetic, something new, he says.
To me, here's the thing: I think you're between a rock and a hard place if you're James Gunn, right? The studio's committed to releasing these zombie movies, right? The two of them basically with Wonder Woman, with the Flash and with Aquaman 2, right? They're
Blue Beetle.
Who's
showing up to Blue Beetle, dude?
I don't know, but it's something different.
Which was supposed to be on streaming.
and listen,
they're just relying on the IP and a cool superhero name to get parents.
Is Blue Beetle a cool superhero name? I don't know, man. Young Justice is cool.
Yeah. Well, it's the first DC Latin American superhero, so they're gonna, that's gonna entice people and be exciting.
I think if
George Lopez is in the movie,
I think if Blue Beetle makes 100 million, I think it's a success, right? But
Zaslav said they've seen Blue Beetle, they've seen the Flash, they've seen Black Adam. We believe in these projects, and we think.
Yeah, because what else are they going to say? That's what I mean.
He says we think they. Yeah, but it's a lie. It's been determined it's a lie. They say we think we can make it better is because he had the meetings with Gunn and Safran. They gave the notes and they made the changes to all the projects, including Black Adam, The Rock. They all came out and said what. We had a scene with Shazam, Henry Levi, or what's his name? Zachary Levi, came out and said that they had a scene that was setting up the JSA. Like they had, it's just another person comes in, make the decisions.
Right.
We got to do our own thing.
So that's what I mean. So we're not even far enough into the James Gunn
already
stuff.
He said him and Saffron knew at the beginning. We're still in the beginning. Was going to be tumultuous and crazy,
and we're in the
a lot
middle
of blame.
We're in the middle of it.
He knew
right
that.
Now. Yeah.
You think that he's going online and seeing people tarnishing him? He knew this was happening. This storm was so predictable. It just would have been. It wouldn't have been the focus if Flash was good and people showed up and wanted to show up, and the word of mouth was good.
Well, the other thing is they lied.
The
lying doesn't help.
A lot of lying.
Yeah,
and now it's like, well, maybe your decisions aren't the correct ones, Zaslav, in trusting Gunn.
I suppose, but
again,
that's an extrapolation at this point.
Yes, we can't go that far because Gunn hasn't started something from the beginning yet.
Right, and he has a track record that we can trust.
Other than the Suicide Squad, which again lost money.
Right, but
it was the world situation. And Peacemaker, which was critically acclaimed and refreshing and funny and all that stuff.
Right.
A little bit too crazy with the jokes, in my opinion. And whatnot.
Sure.
Aquaman shows up and like we're just talking about fucking a fish. It's like, okay, cool, funny.
It's like, yeah, we've seen that.
I guess that's the Aquaman you want. Well, I want King of Atlantis battling these. Like I don't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I don't
think it's just a different tone I'm looking for here that we have. That's just it's not there, and maybe people are tired of the tone that you're trying to sell us, which the MCU has perfected, and this isn't the MCU.
Right. It's like a self-deprecating kind of thing that doesn't. It only goes so far.
Again, the quote, Zack Snyder, how he started this whole thing. Don't make fun, have fun.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It's what we got to start. We got to treat these things with a little bit of reverence. They're important. They're cool. Why?
I agree.
Let's get in there. We can still have tons of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about, you know what I mean? Like, come on. In this movie, these heroes are murdering people left, right, and center. And now it's all of a sudden all good. It's just
listen. I was never a fan of that, for the record.
Yeah, but the whole murdering Batman started. That was the one critique the trolls online, right? Some people agree, like the whole that you can't do that, right? And it's just like, well, there's so many examples over all that. Like it's not this like plotted out murder.
It was more about the guns. It was about the use of guns. I think that was the. But again, also not the first time. I mean, Nolan's Batcycle had guns on it, right, and stuff like so. I don't know. It's a tricky situation at this point. They've poisoned the well a little bit. Like I think.
So how does Superman Legacy I think are we just depending on word of mouth and that it's a good story and people are this is actually awesome.
I don't know. It depends on what the story is. We don't know
because they did that with the Flash. It was believe the hype. This is awesome. Holy shit! Right? That's what we're hearing.
And Andy Muschietti going to be doing.
Muschietti.
Sorry.
Muschietti.
He's going to be doing The Brave and the Bold, which is a movie that I work, right. So
great.
Here's the thing, though. The Flash has been in such like production hell for so long.
Are you excited that Andy Muschietti, director of It Chapter 2, and The Flash, I'm not sure what else.
Certainly other projects
is taking over the IP of Batman.
That's a tough question to answer, Jeremy. It really depends on what the tone.
Really, just depends on what version of Batman you're into, what tone of Batman.
Yeah. Because we've talked before. I think all the versions work.
But I think our Batman needs to be, cool.
I think you're right on that. I think it doesn't.
We can't have him laying on the ground.
All over whatever it is.
We can't have Justice League Batman laying on the ground saying, "I think something's broken." We can't have Batman saying, "I fumbling his word and say, I don't not like you."
Right. Okay. Got it. You got to be more stoic.
Like,
a little bit more stoic.
We gotta protect that Batman, that Bruce Wayne. He's on a mission. You know what I mean?
Hey man, Keaton's Batman was pretty cool, to be honest. But you just understand why
they gave him really cool. They gave him really cool action scenes.
Yeah. Although I got his the line where let's get nuts.
Unbelievable, but
he moves like he moves like.
And then I seen a clip of him taking on one of the Kryptonians, Namek.
But he also kills him. It's like, for the record,
it's like, but it's like you look at it, it's like he's like Spider-Man. He's like what is he doing?
Well, we've seen Batman jump around big villains before. That's also, and that one doesn't bother me because again, he does kill him. He does die from that encounter. So, and so take that for what it's worth. You've seen him die several times.
Keaton just doesn't press the eject button and just
the eject button doesn't work. Actually,
it doesn't. Oh yeah, how convenient.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And then you just see the plane uselessly crash into the Kryptonian ship.
This Kryptonian tech that is just far superior
in every way.
And then Superman was fighting all these Kryptonians, just getting his ass beat.
Yes,
but slowly getting the advantage. Like, oh man,
I think
what's memorable? Man of Steel is memorable, man. The ship commander going after Feora, one of the Kryptonians. That whole exchange, a good death is its own reward. Like, just all these him having to kill Zod, like it's the sacrifice he makes, basically. Like there's just so much goodness there, and people just want to gatekeep.
For the reason though,
Superman should have trunks and smile. And
I will defend the use of Supergirl in this movie. I think she's quite good. I think it's the action's cool. Her performance is good. I would have loved to have seen. Feels like she's coming right out of Zack Snyder's Justice League. By the way,
nice.
She feels like she's out of a completely different movie. So I would have liked to see more, but she's underused. Ultimately, it's like, yes, the use of Batman here is interesting, but also misses the point because it completely dodges the emotional core of it. How does it, Jeremy? I know the answer to this already, but I want you to tell me what is it about Batman's character in Flashpoint that works so well, in your opinion, in the comic book version?
Well, it is that connection. It is that connection to the past, right? And how that set in motion his life and his connection to his parents, and it's that connection that he has with Barry and how
they're both
very
orphans.
Similar situation.
Yeah.
But then that's
he goes back
the DC
in time.
Heroes, right?
Right, but then he goes back in time, and
he has the ability to do that. Yeah.
Right, but at this point, but it's not Bruce, it's Thomas, right?
Yes.
And that gives you that moment at the end where he gets to give Bruce the letter from Thomas is like full circle. It kind of like it justifies.
It's very cool that those two characters that are just so legendary with the character of Batman, and you get to flesh out Thomas Wayne in a certain way, which is it's just never been done before, and it just makes sense, and it's just very cool to have that lineage amongst those men, essentially, and for them to be able to connect in a way which Bruce never could. He couldn't continue that connection with his dad when he died in Crime Alley, killed in front of him, set off in motion all this pain. So just seeing him get that moment of connection there and be able to speak with his dad is so cool. It's almost like a Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader.
Well, it connects this. It draws this line, this connection between these universes, right? That kind of transcend, but because there's these superheroes, because Flash is so powerful, has the ability to travel through time.
And we had Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne.
Right? And how cool would that? I think even that. Okay, so you could have had Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Career. That would have been cool. But also, I think having Keaton play Thomas Wayne would have been an interesting choice, right? Because then there's like kind of like a variety of things that is kind of poured into that character. Then, right? It's like, okay, well, he was Batman in a previous thing, but in this version, he's playing a different character. So he's kind of so now he's playing it differently. But why?
I think that's a little too messy.
Maybe, but either way, this version of Keaton's Batman's here is just here for the sake of bringing in Keaton's Batman. Yeah, it doesn't. There's no emotional core to it.
Keaton decided to do it then, eh? Like he just the paycheck.
I mean that, or he felt like it was
a cool farewell tour.
Yeah, sure.
I don't mind that.
Yeah, he gets to put the suit back on. Why not? Right?
That's it is cool to see the '89 Michael Keaton Batman, even though he's 70 years old or whatever.
Yes.
In the suit, just like doing crazy like Batman stunt work, like moves, gliding, gadgets.
Yeah, he's pretty
that's just cool to see.
Yeah, he does this cool move where he throws a batarang and bounces it off of something and it hits the guy in the head there's some really genuinely cool moments. I don't begrudge that. I just wish it all fit together better, which it doesn't. So anyway, I don't know. There's like so many things that we could unpack here at this point because I've touched on some of these already, but.
And then the Atlantean Amazonian thing, and
it's not even used. It's not used.
Just brutal. And like you have little bits of that in ZSJL, like the one scene where Aquaman and Wonder Woman are talking when they're digging up Clark Kent's body,
right?
Just about their people and whatnot, like just little subtle teases or whatever.
Well, and here's the thing: I think
you get the quote, "Hate is a useless."
Yeah, well, I just think it's fine, I think, in this movie to not lean into that because it's very messy. It's like that opens up all these other angles. If you're going to use that piece of it,
dude,
then I think
one of the things that happens in that story one of the things that happens in that story is that Wonder Woman beheads
I was
Mara,
we were
which would
just-
have been
wild.
What's her name?
Amber Heard. Yeah.
Amber Heard, yeah. Dude, that would be some of the most that would be but imagine if they just went and did that during all that stuff.
Right.
Everyone would be talking about it. Everyone would want to see it. It would be sick.
But then you have to watch essentially an evil version of Wonder Woman, which I don't think this movie was interested in anything like that. It's cool. I had
that drama is just so cool to me. That's like the Game of Thrones type drama, man.
But again, this movie wasn't interested in that stuff. That wasn't its goal.
No, but the DCEU, that's how it was set out to be.
Well,
that's the issue here.
Yeah, to be more of a.
And then they tried to course correct, and it's not working. Now it's arguing, well, why isn't it working? Oh, it's set up to fail. It's like you look at the rewrites, and you look at the notes, and you look at the jokes that they're throwing in, and you look at the actors they're bringing back. Clooney.
Listen, man, the Clooney thing it doesn't matter.
No Way Home. We already saw Multiverse.
Well, I think that's the other thing that you bring up. It's a good point, which is that this movie somehow feels like a retread of those movies, even though those movies just came out, and they were trying so hard to beat Marvel to the multiversal, punch, as it were, right? And then because they couldn't get out of their own way, just another blunder, they get scooped basically by Marvel, right? And they get that Spider-Man movie out, and what makes that movie work, by the way, is having those multiple Spider people interacting with each other, right?
That's what we think of when we think about that movie. We think of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, where's it? And then, that line about where's
the villains, and then Doc Ock, and we don't and then the moment of Tom Holland's Peter Parker and Zendaya's MJ. That we gravitate towards that, and we like the whole fresh.
We like the characters. I think there was that's been there's been a lot of buzz lately about why is it movie not working? Why is it not working? One of the things that people keep pointing to is that what Marvel did was make characters that were likable. People liked these characters. Like I said before, I don't think that this version of Flash is very likable. In fact, they tried to play it off as a joke in the movie that, I'm so annoying. Yeah, you are annoying. It's that that is the case. Yes. So, I don't know. I think they also had the opportunity, we're going to do a Flash movie. You're going to do a multiverse movie.
So what's your superpower again?
Why not use the version? You have at least two other versions of the Flash who played that character alive, right?
Okay.
You could do the double person thing. I think that works. Bring in Grant Gustin, bring in Henry Ship or whatever his name is, a couple of these others, and that's interesting. Multiple Flashes is interesting in a Flash movie. Multiple Supermans for no reason, because when Henry Cavill is obviously not around, suspiciously not around, right? It doesn't make sense. So I don't know. It feels like they don't have a grasp of what even people care about with this character, which I think is another problem. But I don't know. There's a lot of them. You missed it when I was talking about this earlier, but I gave the movie a 7, which is to say that it's fun to be in that world and kind of go back to the time of Man of Steel. And there's another moment, by the way, they do this again, just like BBS, where they have the Flash was there also, tries to save somebody in Gotham, or Metropolis or whatever, but then failed, and it's like this whole thing. So it's like, well, we didn't really need that, but whatever. It's fun in the moment to kind of experience those things, but because as a whole it's so disjointed, it's going to be remembered as a complete failure, even though there's some genuinely good moments. I think ultimately no.
Yeah, I think. Well, no, I'm saying I think in terms of box office,
yes, it'll be.
It was 55 million or 48 or something, and this one did 70, but for inflation, it's exactly the same or something.
I think the Green Lantern as a movie it's dated in its execution, that I think it doesn't age well. I think this movie will age fine. There'll be moments that people pick out and saying this is actually good. Can't believe what's funny is all this will be rewritten. In 5 years, people will be looking back and be like, can you believe what we're not, what we were robbed of? And it'll be a clip from The Flash, So that, you can look forward to that coming at some point. I guess the same kind of thing that the Star Wars movies go through, where they're hated long enough, eventually they're liked again. I'm sure
Well,
that will happen.
I think that's what's happening with Man of Steel and BBS right now.
Yeah,
That's pretty much
exactly. So we're only about 10 years away from that happening with the Flash. And people will be nostalgic of Ezra Miller's version of the Flash and whatever. But yeah, I mean, it all ultimately comes down to, can they launch the new DCU in a way that feels fresh enough that we're not looking back at this stuff being like, well, they had an opportunity to do something interesting and now we got this uninteresting stuff. It has to be fresh and interesting so that we forget about what was before.
That's what I've seen Gunn in an interview. Well, I think it was the Michael Rosenbaum podcast.
Interesting.
Of Lex Luthor on Smallville, right? And also voice of Wally West on JLA.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He was on there and they talked a lot about all the things we're kind of talking about before the results, really. But he basically said that he's going to have an all new aesthetic to his world, like to the world building.
I think you have to
of the DC universe. Yeah, I think you have to for sure. That really sets it apart, and then you nail your tone within that new aesthetic, which we know what to expect from the Suicide Squad previously, the Guardians franchise, which I think it's a perfect blend of the action, the sci-fi, the story, the character.
And it often centers it on what I think Gunn has been good at, and I think proven in Guardians 3 is that there is some wacky stuff going on. It is larger than life. The characters are vibrant and exciting, but it's about these emotional cores, these threads that and these connections between characters that's the center of the movies, and it certainly is the center of Guardians 3. And it's like it totally pays off because at the end of the movie you could be like, well, some of that stuff didn't work. For instance, I don't really think that the final moments of Guardians 2 necessarily hold up for me, but the emotional stakes that paying off at that moment where with Yondu and who's his surrogate father and all this stuff, that works because
not his father, but his daddy or something.
That's right,
or vice versa. I can't remember.
He was exactly. But like, who knows? I couldn't tell you what actually happens at the end of that movie.
I saw an interview with Michael Rooker, who plays Yondu.
Mm-hmm.
And the interviewer was like, "Well, how did you prepare for that scene? Like, what was going through your head when you knew Yondu was dying,
right?
Or Yondu was dying, or whatever?" And he's like, "Well, I don't really think about that because I am Yondu."
Right.
I thought that was like a fascinating.
Right.
Well, he doesn't
in his head.
He wasn't premeditating the notion over and over again that Yondu it was dying or something like that, because he didn't need to prepare in that
it just happens because he is the character.
Right. Yeah.
He's really embodied it. Cool. That is cool. I mean, I'm not particularly like in love with some of the rumors we're hearing about who's being cast as Superman right now.
The front runners looks exactly like Henry Cavill, but a bit younger.
That's a younger version.
But what's awesome about the Gunn Superman legacy is that Gunn is a writer first and foremost, which is awesome. The story is king. You have to like the characters. He has a crazy section in that podcast where he talks about, he goes over the superhero fatigue, and he just kind of doubles down on what we all kind of know the answer is. It's just you need to have a good movie, good story, and characters. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. What was the other Superman that did really good?
The recently? Guardians 3 did really well.
Yeah, Guardians 3. Yeah. So, what he's planning on doing is really setting apart Clark Kent and Superman.
Right.
He wants to treat them as two totally different characters. So I think that dynamic and seeing that on screen and having a lot of fun with that, and hopefully the actor that he chooses can really do something with that and showcase a lot more of Clark and just that dynamic between the two that Christopher Reeves really nailed, but just so long ago and only in 1.5 movies.
You still see that clip from the original Superman movie where he takes off the glasses and stands straight up.
Is that even in the movie, or is that I thought that was like a deleted scene?
I don't know, but you see the GIF all the time on Twitter, and it is impressive.
It is, but it's like very like simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's like from
which
yeah,
which is
obviously.
good though in its own right. It's like, yeah, do this again, but it's like, okay, well,
It's like it's been done.
we'll
Yeah,
see
but
how
I
James
think
Gunn and the actor he chooses how he writes it, and we'll see that dynamic play out. I'm excited. That's what I'm really excited for, really.
well, I've
And I think a lower budget can kind of lean into to that too.
well restraint. Constrictions usually help generate more creativity.
Yeah,
And just,
and just his writing, like in terms of the conversations and how much time you spend with those characters.
well, I think again, as before,
The
like
Lois Lane Clark Kent thing is going to be obviously a huge part.
Henry Cavill's Superman was basically always Superman, and we didn't get a lot of Clark stuff that from my recollection, and the stuff that we did get as Clark wasn't really that different.
Well, we
from
only
his performance of
got
Superman.
was
that scene in
an
the
origin
bathtub?
movie,
Yeah.
an origin movie, and then a studio mandated let's get our
Team
universe
right?
up to let's catch up with Marvel. And looking back now, and as time will tell, they did the best they could with answering the questions of Man of Steel and how Superman kind of birthed the DC universe.
Sure.
And with its just crazy introduction of Batman in a Dark Knight Returns,
Yeah, very cool.
vibe of this threat of Superman and what that first movie did to the world. And
do you think that movie ultimately fails because it's only remembered for the whole Martha thing? That I feel like it really weighed that movie down. I feel like at the time, and still
that was definitely the online.
That.
Yeah, that's the online the easy joke for sure. The online conversation around that for sure.
It's like it couldn't escape the weight of that one decision. It felt like that no matter what they tried to do, they couldn't get around that at the end of the day.
But I don't see that as a problem. I don't see that as a problem with the movie. I just see that as a problem with like the online toxicity.
Yeah, I don't know.
Basically, I don't think that because everything is subjective
that a little bit,
But it's well, not really. It's kind of like it kind of started there.
Yeah, you can make that argument. Yeah, I guess. I mean,
it's BVS and The Last Jedi. Yeah. What are you talking about, man? That's just what you've been conditioned to see is just to boil it down to our moms have the same name, but it just goes so much deeper than that and what that meaning is.
Yeah,
that's all it is. And then the movie turns into a threat against Doomsday, which is super cool. And you have the Trinity fighting Doomsday and like your precursor to Justice League.
Yeah.
If you want to speed that up.
And we get the Wonder Woman theme for the first time, and everyone's like, that's the sickest music I've ever heard. Yeah. Yeah, sick. And then he stopped doing superhero movies after that, basically. Right. And music from superhero movies have basically never been the same since, one might argue.
Yeah, like the music in The Flash is just like some Harry Potter
honestly, it's so it's like, not memorable to me, Jeremy. I just can't even think of a theme.
The Flash scene in Zack Snyder's Justice League is just the song is just incredible.
Oh, you mean that the fan favorite moment of when he enters the Speed Force?
Yeah, the Oscar the Speed Force. Oh my god.
Yeah.
No, but honestly though, that scene is so sick, man.
Yeah.
When you just you got to watch it again, man. Like when every footstep is like a heartbeat sound, it's like gidoosh, gidoosh, and you just see like this amplification of the lightning and like the creation around the feet. But then the song by Junkie XL is just incredible. Uses all electric instruments, specifically electric guitar, and it just has this just unbelievable riff that is just so cool. Yeah, I love that sequence.
Yeah, it feels like to me that they just forgot what makes the Flash work, and which is like doing cool stuff at really fast speeds. And it's not it's not just about time travel. Like you have to do more than that. And like
you need to do better.
And then and I saw a tweet today that I thought was interesting, which I feel like is applicable here, which is like coming back to that story is king thing. Someone was talking about this idea of rebooting Back to the Future, and everyone's like, don't do it, because it's like, and I think the tweet basically was like, make another movie about how your parents were once kids, right? Don't remake the Back to the Future. That movie exists already. It already hits on that theme. Use that same theme and make a new movie, right? You can do that and still honor that concept without having to retread something that's already been done, right? What's the movie trying to talk about in the Back to the Future? It's, oh, hey, you meet your parents they're the same age as you. That's what an interesting concept, right? And instead of this movie, that's like, okay, you're gonna go back in time. You're gonna change the future, right? And your mom's gonna be alive, but you're not actually gonna spend any time with your mom. Very little, right? It's just gonna be you and your dumb multiversal self, who's like a joke character most of the time. And the actual, like, what does the ability of time travel allow you to do, and how does that affect you emotionally, is so wasted, Jeremy. It's such a missed opportunity because it's just played for this kind of like, you know, we're told that he has pain about losing his parents, and because of that, his dad, his mom, and then because of that, his dad, is the motivating factor. But it's so thinly played as the actual, like, from a motivational standpoint, like, show it to me, you know, don't just tell me. And it's just not on screen. There's some moments with him and his mom that are very powerful, but anything resembling that type of emotional stakes is absent for like wide swaths of the movie. And this Keaton Batman is just a distraction. Like he doesn't bring any emotion to the movie, like at all, basically. Although he does do a really cool explanation of the multiverse as how they're presenting it with the spaghetti bowl thing. That's pretty cool. But ultimately it's like not that, it's just not enough. I don't know. There's a lot of things that are wrong with the situation. So I guess, okay, so what's next? We'll wrap it up with what's next. So what's next is Aquaman 2, right? Do we know when the date of that is? What's the release date of that?
Probably the end of this year.
Oh, I think it might be next year still. Aquaman 2. Maybe not.
Yeah, I guess it is probably next year.
No, it is basically December 20th, I think. But it might have been bumped already.
What?
This year.
24?
No. December of this year. So basically next year. But no, I mean, what's the buzz we've heard from this? That it's actually terrible, right? Like, that people are like, it's really bad. That's what I've heard, a lot of that, which is like reverse of the Flash, which makes me think that it might be good. And we liked it. I mean, remember, I just like, everyone hated a lot of people didn't like the original Aquaman, but I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
The thing with Aquaman is that it made $1 billion. That's like this one outlier. But I think its opening weekend was like 67 million.
It didn't make a lot opening weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's I like that the James Wan is back and like the whole cast is back, I guess. But we haven't really seen much. We just like one behind the scenes featurette of him in like a new black suit or something like that.
Jeremy,
but then we know that Jason Momoa is like, might be a different character in the DC universe.
Yeah, probably Lobo. Right? Yeah,
probably Lobo.
I mean, that's what, if you were going to use him for any other character, that's what it would be, I guess. But and Jeremy, you sent me this tweet of one of these directors ruined DC and the others being eyed for more DC projects. But it's really just this like CG abomination of Henry Cavill's Superman that exemplifies how bad some parts of the Flash look. Anyway, talk about the lies. It was the lying about them saying they're going to fix that CG and then not doing it. That's like, fuck you. That's a big slap in the face, I think, to anyone who's willing to come out to see this movie at all. Yeah. Anyway, I am excited about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Well, I like the first movie. If they maintain that action adventure vibe, I think it'll work. What it means for the future, I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, but also, are we just out there to see an Aquaman movie and then that's over? That version of Aquaman's done. Are we going to get a swan song for that Jason Momoa? Is that going to provide us that, or is it just going to be another confusing half step that kind of is like a little bit that, but mostly not? And then we're just going to ignore it all and jump into the Superman movie from Gunn. I don't know. It's all a mess. And then of course, Blue Beetle, which they're saying is the first DCU movie, but it's not clear if that actually means it's in the same universe as James Gunn's Superman, or if it just means it's the first movie that's made by DC Studios, or whatever. But it's also confusing. There's just so much stuff that's confusing. A little clarity would go a long way at this point. Any final thoughts?
Restore the Snyderverse. I mean, that's clearly
the ship has
only thing
sailed,
you do
Jeremy.
here.
We can't.
It is not. It is not sailed because no one is showing up to what's happening now.
Yeah, but
And if
we're
they
also
do not show up for Superman, then what will you say?
at that point. I don't even know. I mean, are you suggesting that there is like a boycott going on? That if that wasn't happening,
no. How would you know a boycott is happening?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's only from the war on online. That's the only
which isn't real. Which isn't the real world.
Which is one side blaming the other side on Twitter, the people that don't like that they're boycotting the movie, which is why it's failing, which is just insane.
Well, I've never said that was going on. I was just confirming.
But that's the thing. It's like not like. If you're like me and you're a fan of the Snyderverse and the DCU and where it began, Man of Steel, BVS, sure. Wonder Woman, Zack Snyder's 4-hour Justice League 4-hour epic, you're not gonna want to see what they've been doing because it's just the complete opposite and like a slap in the face.
Yeah, and it's because it's using those toys in a kind of like in a weird way. So
it's like we had movies with reverence that was cool and could have ended up being like DC's version of like Lord of the Rings or like this mythological take,
sure,
a finite take. That's why the Barry Allen has a little bit of a Wally West, or how there was probably only going to be one Robin during this kind of 5 movie type world, kind of amalgamating the best and simplifying a little bit of all that stuff, because that is one of the craziest comic booky things ever.
5 Robins.
It's 5 Robins.
Yeah.
It just doesn't quite make sense if you know Batman.
But like how
it just
like
doesn't
they were all Robin for like 2 years, and then
yeah, and like Batman just like wouldn't make the same mistake again. Like it just
going back to the well. Yeah. It's fair
let alone 5 times.
Which is why Damian works is such a brilliant reinvention of that character. Because it excuses all those silly things like why would you expose a young boy to this if except for it's his son, which adds it makes more sense. But yeah, I don't know. I just think you got to give Gunn's movies a chance before we start. If we're throwing those under the bus just so we can with the attempt of trying to restore the Snyderverse, I think that's a fool's errand. We got to give the movies a chance, because otherwise, like, it's just like a self-creating prophecy, right? They're not. I mean, I don't know what would have to happen for them to get Zack Snyder back to finish and recast all these characters and bring back the original actors, etc., to kind of continue that, and how that would be received by general audiences that aren't in this bubble. I just it's so hard to read. There's no way to know. But I just feel like it's the things that would have to happen are so unlikely at this point, in my opinion, that it's just probably best to just like let the past die, kill it if you have to. If I used that quote earlier. Yeah, speaking of Last Jedi. But yeah, I don't know. I want to give it a chance. I would like to go into Superman and be open to a new interpretation that will carry forward.
For sure. And that will for sure happen, I think.
Hopefully I hope it's well received. I hope the movie's good, and if it is good, I hope that it gets the traction it deserved. Here's what would break my heart, Jeremy. If the movie's good and it still can't get any attention, that would be like the final nail at this point. I don't know if that would justify the return of Zack Snyder's Justice League or how that would work, but I just don't think it. It would just break my heart. You'd have to give, I think, more than one movie for it to kind of pay off. But all right, let's wrap it up there. Thank you for everyone who tuned in live and hung out with me while I was on here alone waiting for Jeremy to come on. And enjoyed. We watched the entire. Jeremy, you didn't know this, but I had on during the live stream. I had the Flashpoint Paradox animated film playing the whole time.
Nice.
So that wrapped up a little bit ago. Just final note on that movie. I don't love that animated movie. It's so disjointed. Even if you were watching it, even without sound, it was just like it's all over the place. It's way too messy to work as its own thing. But it has some really cool moments. You mentioned the beheading, Jeremy, of Mira. That happens that happens in the movie. There's some really cool character deaths, and they take some big swings. It's fun, at least in that way. But this version of Flashpoint is not much better, but for different reasons, obviously. Anyway, we'll continue covering this absolute disaster and mess as it unfolds and unravels. We'll talk about whatever fallout Aquaman 2 has on the potential for the future of the DCU whenever that happens, and at the end, I guess, end of this year, December. But between then and now, there's lots to talk about. I just saw the new Wes Anderson movie. We'll see if we get a chance to talk about that in an episode soon. Obviously, Spider-Verse was great. Go back and see that if you haven't seen it already, or go see it again if you go see it if you haven't. Go see it again if you've seen it already. We got Indiana Jones coming around the corner. I still haven't seen Transformers, that I hope to see it before it leaves theaters. So this summer has been a big summer for movies. I've enjoyed it a lot. Debating going to see flying somewhere or driving somewhere to go see Oppenheimer in 7mm. I mean, this is kind of like, so movies do feel a little bit like they're back. So it's a little unfortunate that DC can't kind of capture some of that on their own a little bit too. Mission Impossible coming out right around the corner. Barbie, obviously, that too. There's just so much to talk about. So lots to come still from ToB. Thank you to all our supporters at Tower Babblecast on Patreon. We'll be doing our, it's on the 25th already, Jeremy? Crap. So we'll be doing Excalibur for our movie club. That's exclusive to the Patreon any day now. So stay tuned for that. And until then, go enjoy some of these awesome movies in theaters, and we'll be back with more ToB very soon.